charming town of Chepstow is located on the River Wye in the Monmouthshire county of Wales. Since the Mesolithic period, Chepstow has been a key location for humankind and has been a trading location for thousands of years. Dominated mainly by its castle, the charming town that surrounds also features a museum, which used to be a girls' school and then finally a Red Cross hospital in World War II before becoming a museum. The displays are mostly centred around Chepstow, explaining about the port's heritage, history and how it formed, and also includes medieval artefacts. The castle of Chepstow is the oldest surviving post-Roman stone fortification in Britain. Originally known as Strugul, which literally means bend in the river, built in around 1067 under the instruction of Norman Lord William Fitzburn. Later used in the 12th century, the castle was used in the conquest of Gwent, the first independent Welsh kingdom to be conquered by the Normans. It is an impressive fortification that stands aside the Wye River. Tintern Abbey was founded on the 9th of May 1131 by Walter de Clare, Lord of Chepstow, situated adjacent to the village of Tintern in Monmouthshire on the Welsh bank of the River Wye. The abbey fell into ruin after the dissolution of the monasteries in the 16th century. Its remains have been celebrated in poetry and painting from the 18th century onwards. Formerly home to Cistercian monks, it is now a very famous tourist attraction. The present-day remains of Tintern are a mixture of building works covering a 400-year period between 1131 and 1536. Unfortunately, very little of the first buildings still survives today. The abbey was mostly rebuilt during the 13th century, starting with the cloisters and domestic ranges, and finally the Great Church between 1269 and 1301. A great trading post that we will pass on our right hand side is Tintern Abbey Mill. This is a family-run business and has been trading since 1936. There you will find a great selection of local crafts and interesting artefacts. Tintern village sits spectacularly on the banks of the River Wye, and it was actually formerly two historic villages, Tintern Parva, forming the northern end of the village, and Chapel Hill, which forms the southern end of the village, eventually merging together to form just Tintern village. The village is a designated conservation area and is spectacularly beautiful. As you travel the Wye Valley route, you will pass over historic bridges that have been in situ for hundreds of years. The Wye Valley route has always been spectacular for views and serene beauty, and is a fantastic road for motorcycle adventure. The road surfaces are rather predictable, and usually good tarmac is to be found. However, some stretches have got loose gravel, so please watch yourself. There are many interesting stops on the Wye Valley route. Worthwhile stops include the Old Station and Clearwell Caves. Gloucestershire suffers some of the worst flooding in the UK. There are many arguments as to why this might be the case: overbuilding, climate change, or possibly just freak weather events. However, one thing's for certain, it's certainly destructive and it can ruin people's lives.
The roads became quite impassable for several miles. We got through it no less. Seems they got quite a lot of floodwater around here. Oh well. We should continue any more to get home. Never mind that road there, that's nothing to do with it, okay?
Ending in Monmouth, the Wye Valley route is short, but certainly does deliver a punch of beauty. Promoted as the birthplace of British tourism, Ross-on-Wye is a fabulous historical town sat on the River Wye, boasting numerous historic buildings, and memorable beautiful locations. In the 12th century, the right to hold a market in Ross-on-Wye was granted by King Stephen. This stimulated the economy and encouraged trade with the surrounding countryside. Then later on, a market hall was built between 1650 and 1654, replacing an older, probably wooden building, and it is this building that you see before you today. The market house is one of the most famous views of Ross-on-Wye and crops up in most guidebooks that mention Ross. Plaques to Charles II can be found on the walls of the market house, and it is likely one of the most photographed buildings in Ross-on-Wye. The Ross Baptist Church was opened on the 6th of October 1818, costing £3,700, paid mostly for by Thomas Blake, who was a Victorian philanthropist, who was also a committed Baptist and had the idea to tear down the building and construct a new one in its place, still looking remarkably stunning for its 200 years of existence.